You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. It's that time to contemplate what you're either ready to let go of or like I said right now, because today is a new moon and we're moving into this big week, really just thinking about what do you want? And remember that the evolution is a process. It's a process of slowly creeping forward and gathering information and planning and then making strides. And then honestly, it's a lot of just allowing for it to happen. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. If this is your first time listening, well, then thank you so much for being here. Essentially, what we do on this podcast is I get to share a bit of what's been going on for me lately. Today especially, I thought we are just a few weeks away from Christmas and then the new year. And with today being a new moon and a solar eclipse, I've been thinking a lot about what has happened over this past year. And I don't think that every year you're able to take so much space leading up to, the day when 2020 ends and 2021 begins as like an official starting point. And I think that's actually when you look to one day or one event as, oh, when that happens, then I'm going to turn a new leaf or then everything's going to change. That causes a lot of problems. Sometimes people do this like with their birthday, like, oh, when it's my birthday, then I'm going to start doing this. Or, oh, when school starts, then things will change. Or what else? Or people do that with relationships, with marriage too. They're like, when we get married, this will change. And what we all know is that it takes a lot of effort, planning, and internal change, or seeing things differently in order to create real change in your life. And so we can't just expect, oh, as soon as 2020 is over, then everything's going to be better. And we all know that like by that day on January 1st, it's not like we're going to stop wearing masks and stop being vulnerable to COVID and, not be necessarily quarantining and things like that. This year is going to continue to be different and it's going to bleed into next year. I know that might be really hard to hear. I got a text last night from my friend who said that she had a nice big cry session after grabbing her Christmas tree and just feeling the weight of how difficult this year has been. And so I'm a huge advocate of that. Cry it out. Feel your feelings. But I do think that with things being a little slower this holiday season in terms of, it's not like there's a million holiday parties happening and a ton of get-togethers. And I know some people are still doing that if they're doing that. But in general, I think it's slowed down a ton. There's not a lot of places you can go and spend time. And so we are a little bit more here with this gift of time to reflect, to look back on, and to look ahead. And so I've been kind of doing this myself a little bit, especially because right now with this new moon energy, new moons are all about fresh starts, new beginnings, a new leaf turning. And with this solar eclipse energy, it's just amplified. And then we have this huge conjunction coming of Saturn and Jupiter being aligned together. For the first time, this only happens every 20 years. They actually catch up to one another. And then what's really cool is that this is the first time in over 200 years that they're meeting together in a new element sign. So for the past 200 years, every time they've met up, it's been in an earth sign. So either Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo. And now they're meeting in Aquarius. And this is the beginning of another almost 200-year stretch where every time they meet together, they're going to be in air signs. And this is really cool when you think about it, because as we know, they kind of circle together in these different elements. So before the earth signs, they visited fire signs and water signs. And so literally we haven't had this kind of energy of Saturn and Jupiter in air signs for almost 800 years. Isn't that crazy? It's it's kind of crazy to think of how much the world has changed. One, even just in the past 200 years. But then if you think about how much things have changed in the past 800 years, I was doing a little bit of research on this weekend, and they said the last time that Saturn and Jupiter were in air signs, that there was huge technological or innovative improvements to the printing press, which I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because air signs are all about communication, publishing, printing, those kind of things. It's all about how are you actually going to be able to communicate and tell the stories, get information out, all of those things. And so I only can sit here and wonder what the future holds, right? Especially as we go through these changes. And if you think of it for yourself, it's like, what do you want to put this kind of manifestation energy into? Because you have to think about Jupiter. Jupiter is this very lucky planet. It kind of expands everything that it touches. So they say that a lot of very rich people are born with Jupiter in their second house, because the second house governs a lot of personal finances. And it's like Jupiter just expands that. Wouldn't that be lucky? I don't have that placement. I wish that I did. Not that that's not like 100% true for everybody. And it's not like if you don't have that, you can't be wealthy. Anyway, that's a side note. But Jupiter is this expander, right? And so with Jupiter expanding these ideas and Saturn being this very structured, very responsible taskmaster, pursuer, wanting excellence to happen, wanting good, solid foundations, wanting things to be done the right way, you're going to have the good mixture. So you're not only going to just have this solid foundation from which to build, but you're going to have this expansive energy. So if there's anything that you've been looking to start or to turn a new leaf on, or if you're wanting to, publish a book or start a new business or start a new hobby, or just go for something, next Saturday, or I'm sorry, not Saturday, I just pulled that out of nowhere. Next Monday, the 21st, so scratch what I said before, it's Monday, the 21st of December, also the day of the winter solstice. This is the day that these two meet. And so what a great time to kick off something new. And I just want to caution you or remind you or give a little bit of grace, remind you to give grace and space to these ideas. So this doesn't mean you need to, on that day, go out, make an LLC, file bank paperwork and get it going, right? It could be writing a letter to yourself on that day that says, this is what I'm intending to do. I'm picturing myself with this going forward. I'm excited. Breathe fresh energy into it, right? So it could be big or small. It could be you sitting down, just lighting a little candle and breathing into it for a few minutes. Or it can be, of course, much bigger. If there's something that you've been looking to stop or change, this is the time to start doing it. And again, with everything that's happened, I just want to re-emphasize, you don't have to see immediate changes or throw yourself 1,000% into these commitments, but it's time to start really believing it, really investing in it, really starting to picture these things happening for yourself and watching for signs as they unfold. Watch for those signs from the universe and from God that you are on the right track, that you are investing yourself in the right way. And that takes putting down your phone sometimes and being a little bit more present. So I guess it's a little bit of my astro segment too. I didn't even say that that's what I was diving into, but that is definitely what's happening astrologically right now. And it's special. I think that, one of the things that I did is I was working on this new moon guide this weekend is every new moon or full moon, I do share an idea for a ritual. And one of the things that I've been kind of committed to with my ritual guides is making sure that they're not just all kind of new agey with just like lighting sage and saying prayers and doing incense kind of things, although I often do that. If you follow me on Instagram, I posted a little behind the scenes picture of a releasing ritual that I was doing on Saturday night. And what I was basically doing is I love these candles that come from this company called House of Intuition. And essentially they have these different candles that have been kind of supercharged with different intentions. So this candle that I got is for purity, and it's this beautiful white candle. And I wanted it to invoke just a blank slate, like purify our house, purify my heart, purify my mind, help me get rid of fears, help me go into this new chapter in my life with a blank slate, with a fresh start. And it was kind of interesting because usually I more gravitate towards things that sound a little bit cooler. Like I've gotten an abundance candle before, a balance, always need a lot of balance, things like that. But this time I was really drawn towards this idea of purity. And I had actually ordered Dave one too as a little early Christmas present, because we're really working to get him ready to leave his full-time job and become a full-time videographer. And what a huge shift that is in his life, in our life. And so, in tarot cards, there's this major arcana card that's called the death card. And maybe you've seen this in movies where they do seances and things like this. But death, when you draw the death card, it is not a bad omen or anything like that. It doesn't mean that you're going to die a physical death. It means that something is ending and as something is coming to completion. And with every moment that comes to completion in that way, it leaves space and room for something new to begin. And so I got him this, and I was really glad that he wasn't terrified of it, because I was like, I don't know how I would feel if somebody just gives me a death candle. But I knew that for him, that he would know that this is about the death of the career that he's known for the past nine years, and that way of life of living a job where you're getting a paycheck from somebody else when you're working 40 hours a week for a big corporation, and what having time to process that and let that go will mean for what he's about to usher in for us in our future, and what we're going to be capable of in the coming years. So, anyway, I was burning this purity candle, and I had some white sage, and I have my journal that I've been working with, and I was just writing down what I release, what I am ready to release right now. And I do love those tools, but I don't include having to use tools like that in my ritual guides, because I don't want people to think, I don't want you to think that in order to create a ritual that you have to have a lot of stuff. I know that for a lot of people, especially a lot of my very Christian friends and people who are very grounded in a Christian faith, they feel like there's a lot of taboo with a lot of those kind of things. They don't want to do the sage. They don't want to get into anything that has to do with tarot cards. They don't want to have to do anything like that. And I don't think that you need to do that in order to create a sacred ritual for yourself. A ritual, all that means is that you're taking sacred time for yourself to do something that is sacred for you. And so I love watching the lunar cycle as kind of these moments to check in, to let go, to reassess, to create new, to set new intentions, all of those kind of things. And so all of my ritual guides, of course, you can add those things onto it. And I think many people do. A lot of the people who are subscribers to the Patreon, I think a lot of them have space carved out for them, maybe little altars full of candles and crystals and things like that. And that's awesome. but you don't have to have that in order to follow the steps to set new intentions, right? A cleansing ritual could be just taking a bath, taking a couple deep breaths. Maybe you bring your Bible with you and you're reading passages that help inspire you and renew your faith. There's so many ways that you can do this. And I really believe that it's up to each of us to lean into the things that strengthen our personal faith in ourself, in our life, that bring us comfort, that bring us stability, and that help us to show up as the best versions of ourselves and to keep growing. So I guess that's kind of my thought on that. And so if you have been holding yourself back from doing any of these rituals, or if you've been wishing that you could do something like that, then just remember to start small. Really, truly, start small. Carve out 15 minutes before you start watching TV in the evening, light a candle, and just sit. Just sit and watch the flame. Or, like I said, take a bath and use that as time for just you. Or you could go on a little walk. And the walk around the block could be just that time to contemplate what you're either ready to let go of, or like I said, right now, because today is a new moon and we're moving into this big week, really just thinking about, what do you want? What do you want? Right? I'm asking you. And you can use that as this momentum of like, what do you want? That can be a really challenging question to answer. And it's okay if you don't know. And that's the other thing that I want to put out into the universe, is that if you are sitting here and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing so much about this great conjunction and this big star in the sky, and I don't know, I don't have any projects. I don't know what it is that I need to light on fire right now, or like have come. That's okay. You're exactly where you need to be. And the universe is guiding you in your own time and place. So just let it all wash over you. Let this experience just be present. See if you can put down your phone a little bit more. See if you can tune into yourself. Journal. Those kind of things. And not about anything in particular. Just noticing what you're feeling, where your thoughts are, what you're leaning towards, what's intriguing for you. All of that is being on the right track. And guess what? There's going to be more solar eclipses and new moons in the future, and you're going to continue to move through the cycles in your life the way that you already have been. We all move through seasons where our big fresh starts are bigger than other times in our lives, and it's different for everybody. So, all right, you guys, that's my 2 cents on the astrology, the new moons, the rituals, and all of that. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll dive right back in. Okay, you guys. So I said that I've been thinking back on this year and doing a lot of reflecting. And I remembered that I had set out and started writing these different goals. And one of the things that I was really excited about is back around this time last year, I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this overarching goal for 2020, just like a little summary for myself. And then I'm going to go through and write quarterly goals. And then each quarter I'll redo or see where I'm at and do it more. So how I did this was I broke it down like January through March. Okay, what are my personal quarterly goals? And then what are my business specific quarterly goals? And so, of course, what I didn't know then is that in March, like COVID would get really bad, and then I would have no idea where I was headed. And so, actually I had like done January through March and like was on really good track. And then I was like, oh crap, I don't know what to do for April. And then I was like, I need to get some more, goals going. So like May has a bunch of personal things and like 2 business things. And then the rest of the year is blank. And now I did shift to a different kind of goal system about halfway through the year, because for my birthday, I got myself that journal that I've talked about. It's from Silk and Sonder, and it's a really cool monthly tool to keep track of your habits and goals and things like that. So it's not that I totally stopped working towards anything, but it changed a little bit. But why I bring this up is because I thought it would be really interesting and maybe valuable for me to share with you what I had written a year ago as I envisioned this year. And then share a bit from within about how those things either manifested or came to fruition and or changed throughout the course of this year as we lived it. So how I started my letter to myself, it says, speaking from the heart, my biggest hope for 2020 is that I stay true to myself, that I find a deeper connection to my highest self, that I find balance each and every day between being the fierce and driven businesswoman that I am, but also the sweet, creative human being that I am. I want to show up more fully in different areas of my life, and my hope is that my business can continue to shine and to grow, but that I spend less time in it so that I can spend more time investing in myself as a yoga teacher and putting myself in the spotlight to speak and write about what's important to me, my spiritual journey and realizations. When I see myself sitting down a year from now, it's my hope that I'm on a vacation somewhere while being able to look ahead with more confidence in setting goals and moving forward. It's my vision that I'm engaged to Dave. Oh my gosh, can't believe I'm sharing this with you guys. But I wrote it, I'm sharing it. It's my vision that I'm engaged to Dave and that we're doing better in our relationship and life goals together than ever before, moving into financial freedom and really enjoying work. It's my vision that I have spent more time doing the things that serve my heart, like cooking, writing, chatting with others, giving knowledge back into the world. It's my vision that I've changed physically and grown into a more free version of myself. When I summarize what I hope for in my business, it truly resolves into having more systems and people to handle the work that I've spent so much time doing. This means that I will be able to work on developing others, helping customers, and creating incredible experiences for them. I want the everyday workflow to be easy and more routine. I want to increase our sales and profits in 2020, and I want to be able to get ourselves to a place where we can bring on more employees, especially Dave, full-time. I want to get more into the video side of things myself and hope we can truly expand our business in that way. And I hope by the end of 2020 that I have a very clear vision of if we stay Felicia Marty Photography or if we rebrand into a different name. Dun, 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 that's it. That's what I wrote a year ago. And wow, it is fascinating. I have not looked back at that at all this year until today. And it's interesting because so much of that has manifested without, me consciously linking it back to that I had wrote it then and then, decided. Of course, a lot of that didn't happen in certain ways. We weren't able to increase our sales and profits this year because we lost so much expected revenue, and some of it is just lost and some of it has been redirected towards 2021, and I'm grateful for that. And most important thing when it comes to sales is that we survived this year, that we made it, and that we didn't suffer too much. I'm so grateful for that. And there's nothing you can do about that, right? Like, I had no idea that's something that if I would have been told, if, like an angel would have come down and sat with me and said, okay, here's some of the things that you're going to go through this year, plan accordingly. I think my goals would have looked a lot different, but that's what I did throughout, is you get the information and then you readjust, right? It's like, one of the things that I've learned is that you can't hold so fast to the goals that you set out that you forget to readjust for where life is really taking you, right? It's like if you are training for, a gigantic marathon and you get injured, to continue to train for the marathon in a way that continues to hurt you or is not applicable for you, it doesn't make sense for that to be your goal. So you have to change things. Maybe your goal becomes to rehabilitate your injury so that you can begin training again, right? So when it comes to that part of things, especially the business stuff, it's really interesting because I feel like we made huge strides this year in terms of our systems and being able to find workflows that are a little bit more intentional. Now, I have Abby, my assistant, to thank so much for that, because she is so detail oriented and she has created such solid systems, and she's forced me to become more consistent with how we do things. We also, about a year ago, were able to start using this awesome customer relationship management tool called Tave. It's specifically for photographers. All kinds of photographers, but it works great for wedding photography. And that has helped so much because it allows me to set up automated emails. So, because so much of what happens when you're in a business like wedding photography, it's like, well, you need certain information from people and then you can give them the next set of information, or, reminding people about their invoices. For so many years, that was not a place that I shined in my business. But now, having used some of these systems a little bit more, it's actually able to help me show up how I want to be able to show up, and consistently for my clients. So even if we're having a really busy week with photographs or stuff going on personally, and I'm not at my computer as much, all of my customers are going through the same process. They're getting the same information. They're getting the same tools. We're getting the same information from them when they fill out different forms. It just makes it so much better and so much more consistent across the board, which makes us able to do our jobs better. And that's something that I really wanted, and that I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to execute last year, or at the beginning of last year. And now it's happening. Another thing that I really struggle with is showing up on social media. And I'm talking specifically right now from this perspective, or about showing up on social media as Felicia Marty Photography, or Felicia Marty Photo and Video. Social media is tough, you guys. When you're running a business, like I usually stay away from shoulds. That's what the pause was, as I was going to say, you should be on social media. And that there's an asterisk with that, because not everybody likes social media. And I don't think that's the only end all be all, but it's a very, very good way to connect. One thing I love about it is that it's a great way for people to keep up with your recent work. It's Instagram is such a fun platform to see beautiful pictures that other people post and share, and be able to comment. And I really genuinely love Instagram. Now Facebook, on the other hand, sometimes I think that if I didn't have a business, that I would likely just delete Facebook, but a lot of people are still on Facebook. And those are the decisions that, I have to make for myself. But it can be really challenging because you see other people who are really good at social media, and I feel like I am not one of those people. And so it's a place that can also show up as a little bit of a trigger for me. And it can be a huge time suck. Okay. I'm serious. As a photographer, there's not a ton of easy ways to get photos from your computer onto your phone. And thank God I have I use all Apple stuff, and that makes it a lot easier. But literally what I was doing for so long is that I would edit some pictures, and maybe I'd do anywhere from 2 to 10 that I would edit and be like, okay, these are the photos I want to post. And then I would text message them to myself so that I could save them onto my phone. And then occasionally I would throughout the week just post a picture. And I would have to, you have to figure out, what are you going to write about? What are you going to share about? All of those kind of things. And I am a very fast typer, and I'm also pretty fast with texting on my phone. But when it comes to writing social media stuff on your phone, it's just for me, I can't type as fast as I think, and it just feels really slow and monotonous. And so this was a huge pain point for me. And so what I decided is finally, it was probably about March or April when I finally was like, all right, you know what I can do with during the pandemic is I can look into a system that's actually going to work for me. Because I had tried a couple others, different posting on social media tools out before, and I didn't love them. And then I found this tool called Planoly, and it is awesome. It allows me to post all my photos, see them in, a grid of 3 photos like you'd see on your profile page. It allows me to be able to type on the computer all of my captions. It has like hashtag savers so that you can kind of go in and create different categories for different hashtags. And this just helped me a ton because I could do it all on my computer and then schedule it out to start posting. And honestly, I was using it very intermittently. So like sometimes I'd schedule like 2 or 3 posts out. Sometimes I would just use it to auto post. Like I'd just get in there and use it and then say, yes, post this. But about a month or so ago now, I mean, it's already been like 6 months of using this, I started realizing like, I really need to rely on this a little bit more heavily and schedule out for like a whole week. And right now I'm trying to actually schedule out for an entire month. And what that's going to allow me to do is spend less time on social media. And one thing, of course, that we'll always do is post sneak peeks, which happen in the moment. So like, that's not going to go away. But it just allows me to share more regular content and keep that conversation going. And then when I do get on Instagram, I can actually interact more with people than feel like I just have to come up with something to share, right? And what that's also going to do is give me more mental freedom throughout the month ahead or throughout the week, where instead of having to think of like, okay, what kind of content am I going to come up with, or what picture can I post, or, there's so much that I think about when it comes to that. It's just going to free up a ton of that space. Other things that in terms of business that, wanted to get set up was like setting up a server so that my teammates, they could get their photos that they take to me more easily, setting up better, stuff on our portfolio, team trainings, automated systems, all of that kind of stuff. And, I think we made a lot of progress. Definitely this year was hard business-wise. I definitely took what felt like some steps back, because a lot of the stuff that I was kind of looking to start taking off my plate, I ended up having to be like, nope, that's coming back on my plate so that we could save the money. And because I had the time, because I wasn't doing as much work. But that being said, this is the first year that I have decided to and been able to take it's going to be a staycation, but from the 19th through the 27th, I'm taking off from Felicia Marty Photography. And I say that, and that's going to be very difficult because I work and out of my home, and I live and breathe this stuff. And I'm sure that we're going to get emails coming in, things like that. And I haven't quite thought through if I'll do a automated response or what that's going to look like. I have to think about that. But what I am thinking about is what I want to fill that time with instead. So if I could have an entire week off, what would I do? Like, what are some of the projects that I want to work on around the house? What are books that I want to read? What are shows I want to binge? How can I take that and make it a very special time for me? And I thought that was so interesting that in this reflection, I said, like a year from now, I see myself on a vacation somewhere, being able to look ahead and more confident at setting goals. And I thought, wow, that is so crazy, because I'm actually going to do that. And I did envision myself in front of a beach, and I will not be at the beach, but I did download this summer over the 4th of July holiday a beach screensaver for our TV, for our Apple TV. So you know what? I'll throw on some ocean waves there and let that kind of inspire me right now while traveling is not an option. And then In terms of some of those more personal goals, Dave and I are not engaged. I have to address it in case it's coming up. I get asked so much, when are we going to get engaged? And I will be very honest with you guys. Obviously, it's a little vulnerable for me to share the part of that says, like, I hope that I'm engaged to Dave. It is absolutely something that I want. It is something that he wants too. And it is just a matter of us figuring out what that timing should and will look like in our lives. And I am not worried about it. I tease him a lot about it. And a lot of people ask me, like, when is that going to happen? And the truth is, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that we didn't get engaged this year, because how stressful would it be for me to feel a lot of pressure to plan a wedding during a pandemic, during COVID? And honestly, I still don't have a lot of clarity over what I want. So the longer that we aren't engaged, the more time that I have to kind of contemplate that as well. So anyway, just had to address that. We've had a lot of conversations about that this year, and we have grown in our relationship. And I feel like we are continuing to make great progress there. And that's what matters more to me, is that we are moving towards our goals together. And that feels really, really good. That matters the most. And then the beginning part of this thing is, all about me feeling like I can actually show up and do more for yoga, speaking, writing, sharing what's going on inside of me. And holy cow, I really wonder if it wasn't for the pandemic, when and how I would have started a bit from within. Because I was pushed to be able to do that, to be able to stay connected to how I wanted to show up the way that I could show up in the yoga class. Like at Asana Studio where I was teaching, I wanted to be able to take my ability to speak and show up there and make that something that I didn't just do within the walls of the studio, but that I could actually do in my life too. And it was with that change that came with that first stay-at-home order that allowed me to do this. And it's been very vulnerable and very scary. There's been so many things that I feel like I didn't know going into it, or that I was just making up. A lot of the new moon and full moon guides are things that I'm just like, okay, I'm just trying this template out. I'm trying this perspective. I'm trying to share this information, and I'm throwing a lot of stuff out there and seeing what sticks and what works. And I have not been perfect. It's not like I have suddenly grown to, 500 or 1,000 or hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, it's, or social media, but it can't be about that. For me, it's not about that measurable. And for me this year, in terms of that goal, has been, can I stick with it? Can I share a podcast each and every week? Can I film a yoga class and put it out there? Can I record a guided meditation? Can I keep up with the lunar cycles? Can I practice what I preach? And if I get anything also about there on social media, well, then that's great. But slowly but steadily, there have been more and more changes to this. And like I shared last week, there's going to be a new website soon too. And so, yeah, I feel like, wow, that happened, and it is happening, and it's continuing to happen. And so it's really, really nice to have this moment to look back on the goals that I did have and see that honestly, so many of them happened. I mean, even this last part about, Dave going full-time, I touched on that, but about how I want to get more into the video side of things. I shot my first wedding as a videographer in October, and that was something that I'm so happy I was able to do. And I'm so excited that we can accomplish more of that, and how that part of our business is growing. So all of this is just to say, even though this year has felt like so much waiting and stopping and no's and backtracking and all of the things that have not felt well. And there has been so much of this collective, especially for you guys who are empaths, this feeling of just sadness and hardship and frustration. But what happens when we sit down and give credit where credit is due? And I'll share with you guys that a lot of times, this is something that I've been doing for a long time. When I would get ready to go see my therapist, I would sit down and be like, or I would be walking in or driving to the therapist's office feeling like I have nothing to talk about this week. I don't even know if I want to talk. Like, just so you guys know, people who love to go to therapy, they still feel that way. I feel that way often. I'm a huge believer of therapy, but I often feel like, I'm not ready to do this. I don't have anything to say. But how I figured out what to talk about is I would say, I'm going to just look at the calendar and start writing down on a little piece of paper and a note on my phone what's happened since the last time I saw that person. So, this happened. Oh, and this happened. Oh, and that led to this. And then one thing leads to another. And before you know it, you have like 6 or 7 things you're going to talk about. Usually one that is more pressing than another. And that is kind of what this whole thing is about. And if we don't take the time to actually sit back and reassess and really acknowledge the progress that we've made and the things that we've accomplished, then we can find ourselves always feeling like we have more to do, right? It's like, for example, this is kind of, actually, I'll share a little bit of a story because right before I sat down to record this, I was, it's like my favorite thing on Mondays to vacuum the carpet in our house. And so it feels awesome. And so I was vacuuming. I was doing some deep cleaning vacuuming with the hose, and I was getting all of Brad's dog hair off the edges of the steps. And a couple weeks ago, so our washer and dryer is upstairs, which is really nice because our closets are upstairs and then it can all just stay upstairs, and that's great. But it's like right on the edge. It's in our kind of hallway. It's like a stacking washer and dryer. It's actually kind of shoved into a little closet. And so usually I have a basket of, our laundry detergent and all of that stuff that I just bring out and set on the handrail that kind of opens up to our foyer. So when I'm doing laundry, and I've done this for over a year now, right? Since we moved in. Well, I was across the room and I literally don't know what happened, but suddenly the basket falls, I don't even know how high the clearing is, like probably, I don't know, like 14 feet down into the hallway, and our Costco size Downy fabric softener explodes all over the wall. I'm watching this happen in slow motion. Thank God the dog wasn't down there. It literally was like blue everywhere. And so I ran down the stairs as quickly as possible, and I'm thinking, I wish I were an adult so I would know how to clean this up. Honestly, that's what I thought. I was like, I bet my mom would know how to do this. But here I am, home alone. I have to figure this out. And I cleaned it all up. But in a new build, they often paint the walls with flat paint. And flat paint is really good at hiding like dents and things like imperfections. But it is really horrible to clean. And so now, even though I cleaned the wall super good, it smelled like the most amazing, like fresh hallway for a long time. But there's still like, you can see where the Downy like spattered against the walls, like this kind of very kind of bluish stain. It's not horrible, but it's definitely, maybe it's just like a little green. I don't know. Anyway, I was just thinking, I'm like, gosh, that's one of the things that I'm going to do during my vacation is I'm going to get some of our touch-up paint. I'm going to paint over this. I need this all to look really clean again. And I'm going to get these baseboards looking better. And honestly, I'm not going to get lost on that train because I don't need to bore you with the flat paint journey that's happening in my head. Anyway, but I was thinking about this project of painting, and I was thinking, gosh, there's just so much more to do, because once I do that, then I have to do the edges where like we rub up against a lot, and the doorways, they get really dirty, and I've got to clean those and then touch up the paint there. And it's just so much. But then I was thinking, I'm like, well, I did touch up the paint earlier this year, and in August, we actually painted accent walls in both of the bedrooms upstairs. That's cool. There's been so many projects that we have done at our house, and I just needed to take that moment to be like, you know what, this will get done, and we've also done so much. So anyway, that's a very long-winded way of just saying, give credit where credit is due, and even if you have to do things that you've done before, or if there's that thing that you just do once a year, like touch up paint, or make a bunch of food or lasagnas, or, there's certain things that we do, especially this time of year, like make cookies. Just remember to have fun with it. Have fun with the process. Don't constantly feel like you have this long to-do list hanging over you, or don't get lost in the New Year's resolutions. Don't get lost only in the feeling of you need to change or need to be different. If you can, allow it to come from a place of like, I'm ready and excited to evolve into X. And remember that the evolution is a process. It's a process of slowly creeping forward and gathering information and planning and then making strides. And then honestly, it's a lot of just allowing for it to happen. So hopefully that makes sense and resonates with you all. And I just want to thank you so much for tuning in today and listening to me share a bit from within. I like to end each episode with our card drawing. So I'm back to the Affirmators Love and Relationships deck. Let's see what we can pick today. Okay. You guys, if you're still looking for Christmas ideas or something that you want to ask for, this deck is a really cool deck, or any of these kind of fun card decks they're just fun to have around. Okay. Picking one out here. Okay. You guys, this is so cute. There is, on the picture of the top of this, there is a clawfoot bathtub with a girl who's sitting in her bathtub full of tons of bubbles, and there's all these little helpers. So there's like these little bubbles that are playing violins, and then one that's holding like a palm leaf over her head, and then there's like these two little mouses like lifting up a wine glass for her. And I love that because the word on this card is pleasure. And it says, I give myself permission to feel pleasure, and I let that pleasure rush into my life in a decadent display of over-the-top abundance. Then I realize that pleasure has been waiting at my door for a long time. It's just that pleasure doesn't knock on doors because loud noises aren't super pleasant. I love that, and that so has a vibration that I'm feeling right now. So hopefully this episode has shared a little bit of that with you too. All right, you guys, until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep taking care of yourself. Hopefully you're having time to move your body, get outside if you can, take care of yourself, and until next time.